Let me tell you something that changed my life. Thinking is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned, refined, and strengthened. You weren't born knowing how to think correctly, neither was I. But when you do learn how to think right, everything else starts to line up: your habits, your income, your relationships, your future. Most people don't fail because of lack of opportunity or lack of resources. They fail because of how they think. Their thoughts betray them long before the world ever does. That's why I'm here. I want to teach you how to think correctly. Your thoughts shape your future more than your circumstances do. Most people believe that their life is a direct result of what's happening around them, where they were born, who their parents were, what kind of education they had, how much money they started with, or how lucky they've been. And while all of those things play a role, they don't determine your future as much as how you think about them. Two people can face the exact same situation and end up with completely different outcomes, not because of the situation itself, but because of how they chose to think about it. One person sees a problem and gives up. Another sees the same problem and gets creative. One person experiences failure and says, "That's it, I'm done." Another experiences the same failure and says, "That's just the beginning of my education." What made the difference? Not the event, the thinking around the event. Thinking is the steering wheel of life. You don't drive a car with the engine alone. The engine gives it power, yes, but without a steering wheel, the car goes nowhere useful. Same with life. Motivation is the engine. Your environment might be the road, but your thinking, that's the steering. And if it's not aligned, if it's confused, if it's fearful, if it's negative, then it doesn't matter how much fuel you have. You'll be headed in the wrong direction. That's why developing correct thinking is the foundation of everything else. Before goals, before discipline, before strategy. Because your thinking affects how you even see goals. It shapes your discipline. It controls whether or not you believe a strategy can work for you. You see this clearly in people who constantly say, "I can't." That one phrase shuts down possibility faster than anything else. I can't do that. I can't learn that. I can't speak like them. I can't be successful. Notice that they're not even trying, because their thoughts already lock the door. You can't walk through a door you believe is sealed shut. But what happens if you change the thought to how could I do that? Suddenly the mind starts opening. What would it take? Who do I need to become? What skills do I need to learn? And now the mind isn't a prison, it's a workshop. That's the shift from limitation to creation. Most people are living in a mental cage of their own making. It's not their background that's keeping them small. It's the voice in their head that says, "You're stuck. You're nothing special. Just survive." That voice didn't come from nowhere. It was passed on by others who were thinking incorrectly, parents who were afraid, teachers who were burnt out, friends who were insecure, and over time it became your voice, but it's not your voice. It's borrowed, and you can give it back. When you change your thinking, you change your identity. That's what people miss. They want to act differently, but they haven't changed how they see themselves. If you still think like a victim, you'll act like one, even if you're in a better place now. If you still think like someone with no power, you won't use the power you've got. The brain is always filtering reality to match what it believes. If it believes you're a loser, it will ignore signs of progress. If it believes you're not good enough, it will distort compliments and focus on criticism. That's why reprogramming your thoughts is so critical. It's not about pretending or positive thinking alone. It's about developing accuracy. Correct thinking doesn't mean you always feel good. It means you're honest with yourself. You stop exaggerating problems. You stop minimizing your strengths. You stop living in mental extremes. Either people think they're the worst or they pretend they're the best. Neither one is stable. The correct thinker knows they're not perfect, but they're capable. They know they've failed, but they're not a failure. They understand that growth is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. They face reality, but they don't let it define what's possible. Think of successful people. Not just the rich or the famous, successful in spirit, in discipline, in character. If you study them, you'll notice a pattern in how they think. They don't waste mental energy on things they can't control. They don't dwell on the past unless they're learning from it. They don't spend time proving their worth. They spend time improving their skills, and most of all, they guard their thinking the way others guard their money. They protect it, they train it, they upgrade it regularly. The mind left on autopilot tends to drift toward fear, doubt, and distraction. That's human nature, but you don't have to obey that drift. You can take the wheel. You can direct your thoughts the same way a pilot adjusts course during a flight. Even if the plane hits turbulence, the destination doesn't change. That's how a correct thinker lives. They experience fear, yes, but they don't let fear become the captain. They experience stress, but they don't let stress hijack their decisions. They hear the noise, but they don't let it become their focus. Correct thinking creates emotional stability. When you learn to think accurately, you no longer become a slave to every mood, every trigger, every outside opinion. You build an internal compass. That compass keeps you steady, while others are swinging from one extreme to another. Too high when things go well and crushed when things go wrong. You stay centered, not emotionless. Just grounded. That's the power of thought. It can calm the storm or cause it. Look at two people given the same opportunity. One thinks, this could be something. The other thinks, what if I fail? One moves forward with cautious optimism. The other doesn't move at all. Who ends up building something? Who ends up talking about what they could have done? Same door, different mindset. Same world, different lens. It's the lens that matters. If your lens is dirty, cracked, or outdated, you can't see clearly. You'll misinterpret everything. A compliment sounds like sarcasm. A challenge feels like an attack. A suggestion feels like judgment. But clean your lens, start thinking correctly, and suddenly you can see the opportunity in feedback, the lesson in failure, the direction in discomfort. You stop resisting growth because you no longer fear what it says about you. You start seeking growth because you know that's what life is about. Your entire life is a mirror of your thoughts, not in a magical way, but in a practical way. If you think work is boring, it becomes boring. If you think people are out to get you, you start spotting evidence everywhere. If you think success is possible, you start noticing ideas, making decisions, and building habits that align with that thought. And over time, your outer world starts reflecting what your inner world believed first. That's not luck, that's alignment. Your thinking laid the foundation before the results ever showed up. It's the same with relationships. If you think you're unworthy of love, you'll settle for less than you deserve. If you think everyone leaves, you'll push people away before they can prove you wrong. If you think connection is possible, you'll show up differently. You'll listen better, you'll forgive more easily, you'll invest more willingly, and those thoughts will create the atmosphere for love to grow. So your thoughts are not just private whispers, they're blueprints. They shape the energy you bring, the words you choose, the actions you repeat. They're the beginning of everything. They're the root. Change the root, and the fruit changes automatically. Challenge inherited beliefs and question automatic thinking. Most people walk through life with a set of beliefs they didn't choose. They absorb them. They inherit them from parents, teachers, society, culture, television, the neighborhood they grew up in, and the environment they were raised in. From a young age, the mind is like soft clay. It picks up whatever is thrown at it. You're told certain things over and over, and without questioning them, they settle in. You hear you're not good at math, or people like us don't get rich, or you have to go to college to succeed. And without realizing it, you build your entire mindset around them. You don't stop and ask, is that true? You just live as if it is. That's what automatic thinking does. It runs in the background like a computer program you forgot you installed. It governs your decisions, reactions, and behaviors without you even knowing it. You make choices based on it. You defend it. You even fight to protect it. But if you never examine those thoughts, how do you know they're even serving you? Just because a belief feels familiar doesn't make it right. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's wise. Some beliefs need to expire. Some ways of thinking need to be outgrown. Think about how many people walk around believing they're not capable. Not because they tried and failed, but because someone once told them they couldn't, and they believed it. Maybe a parent told them to be realistic. Maybe a teacher criticized them at the wrong moment. Maybe a friend laughed when they shared a dream, and that moment, that one event, became a seed of belief. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I should play it safe. And once that thought takes root, it doesn't stop there. It multiplies, it spreads, it becomes a lens for everything else. Suddenly, you're not applying for opportunities because people like me don't get that kind of chance. You're not speaking up because every time I do, I sound stupid. You're not trying something new because I already know how this ends, but none of this is truth. It's just unchallenged belief. Some beliefs are disguised as common sense. You can't have success without sacrificing your family. Nice guys finish last. Money changes people. These sound reasonable at first. They even sound wise, but have you ever asked, is that always true? Or where did I learn that? When you start asking those questions, you begin to reclaim your power. Because you realize most of your beliefs aren't facts. They're conclusions someone else came to, based on their fears, their experiences, their limitations. And you've been living inside those conclusions as if they were concrete walls. But the truth is, they're just fog. They disappear the moment you walk through them. If you want to grow, if you want to rise, if you want to lead, you have to do more than accumulate knowledge. You have to inspect your beliefs, especially the quiet ones, the ones you don't talk about, the ones you assume without thinking. Those are the ones that control the most. For example, if deep down you believe you're not worthy of success, you'll find a way to sabotage every opportunity. You'll procrastinate, you'll settle, you'll undercharge, not because you want to fail, but because failure feels more comfortable than challenging the belief. The belief feels safe. Even when it hurts you, it feels familiar. The process of challenging beliefs is not always comfortable. In fact, it can shake you. It can feel like breaking out of a warm bed into cold air. But that's what real transformation requires. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable with your own assumptions. You have to be willing to sit with a thought and ask, who gave this to me? Does this serve me now? What's the cost of keeping this belief? And when you find a belief that's been limiting you, don't just remove it, replace it. The brain doesn't like a vacuum. If you let go of a limiting belief but don't install a new empowering one, the old one might just sneak back in. You can't build a strong life on a weak mental foundation. And inherited beliefs, if left unexamined, are often filled with cracks. You might believe you're too old to start over, too young to lead, too shy to speak, too broke to invest, too behind to catch up. But those are not facts, they're scripts. Someone handed you that script, and you've been reading from it ever since. But you can stop, you can write a new one, you can interrupt the pattern. That's what thinking for yourself looks like. Not just repeating what you've heard, but challenging it, editing it, and rewriting the parts that don't serve your purpose. Automatic thinking is the enemy of progress. It convinces you that the way you've always done it is the only way. It says, that's just how I am. It says, that's just the way the world works. But breakthroughs come when someone dares to say, what if it's not? Every major leap in history, in business, in science, in human rights, came from someone who challenged automatic thinking, someone who looked at the norm and said, that doesn't make sense, someone who questioned the story and rewrote the ending. You don't need to be a genius to do that. You just need courage, the courage to stop running on mental autopilot. The courage to slow down your thoughts long enough to investigate them. This is where personal power begins. Not just in doing different things, but in thinking different thoughts. When you challenge your beliefs, you begin to make decisions based on vision, not fear. You begin to move toward what's possible instead of staying trapped by what's familiar. You stop letting your past dictate your future. And you begin to live with intention. That's the power of a questioned mind. It's sharper, it's clearer, it's more alive, and it becomes a tool for freedom instead of a trap of old programming. Sometimes people say, "I've always been like this," as if that's a permanent truth. But the real question is the way I've always been helping me or hurting me? Just because something feels like your personality doesn't mean it's your destiny. Many parts of your personality were shaped by pain, by fear, by reaction. And when you challenge those roots, you open the door to evolving into someone stronger, wiser, more confident. You begin to sculpt your character on purpose. Instead of accepting whatever life threw at you, your mind is your most powerful tool, but only if you take control of what's running inside it. Inherited beliefs don't have to become lifelong beliefs. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to believe new things. You're allowed to update your philosophy as you grow. In fact, it's not just allowed, it's necessary, because what got you here won't get you there. Thoughts that helped you survive may not help you succeed. The beliefs that kept you safe may now be keeping you small. And the assumptions you made years ago may be completely false today. But unless you stop and look, you won't know. That's why awareness is everything. You can't fix what you don't see. You can't heal what you don't confront, and you can't grow if you don't challenge the mental walls around you. So challenge them. Question the old stories. Interrupt the mental scripts. Shine light on the assumptions. Every belief you examine is a chance to upgrade your life. Every thought you take off autopilot is a door to new choices. And every moment you choose to think intentionally instead of reacting habitually is a step toward freedom. That's how your thinking becomes your ally instead of your cage. And that's how you start designing your mind instead of inheriting one by default. Take full responsibility for how you think, not just what happens to you. It's easy to look at life and point to events, circumstances, or people as the reasons we are where we are. It's easy to say, "This happened, so I couldn't," or "They said that, so I stopped," or "I grew up like this, so I never had a chance." But as long as you place responsibility for your mindset outside yourself, you give away the most powerful tool you have. Because what happens to you is one thing, but how you think about it determines what happens next. If someone insults you, the insult is theirs, but your reaction, your interpretation, your replaying of that moment over and over in your head, that's yours. You can't always control the situation, but you can always control the meaning you attach to it. That's where responsibility begins. Most people misunderstand responsibility. They think it means blame. They think it means carrying guilt or admitting fault. But responsibility isn't about guilt, it's about power. It's about claiming the authority to choose your thoughts, even when the world doesn't hand you the perfect conditions. It's the decision to say, no matter what's happened, I decide what it means. I decide what I do with it. I decide how I grow from it. That mindset separates those who build something strong from those who wait for life to hand them something easy, because easy may never come, but the ability to respond, responsibility, that's always in your control. There are people who went through incredible pain and turned it into strength. There are people who faced rejection, poverty, failure, abandonment, and still rose to lead, to succeed, to inspire. Not because they had more talent or luck, but because they took control of how they processed life. They didn't wait for their circumstances to change. They changed how they saw their circumstances, and in doing so, they changed their direction. When you take responsibility for your thinking, you stop needing the world to be fair before you move forward. You stop waiting for apologies to heal. You stop needing everyone to agree with you to feel confident. You step into the driver's seat of your own internal world, and from there, you start making deliberate choices instead of emotional reactions. Responsibility for your thinking also means paying attention to your patterns. What thoughts show up when you fail? What do you say to yourself when someone criticizes you? What meaning do you give to discomfort, to setbacks, to silence, to uncertainty. Most people don't even realize the stories they're telling themselves all day long. They carry on internal conversations that chip away at their confidence, their ambition, their energy. But if you listen closely, you'll find that many of these thoughts are rooted in fear, not truth. Responsibility means stepping back and asking, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is this belief mine or someone else's? Is this perspective leading me forward or keeping me small? The more you ask those questions, the more you become the editor of your own thinking instead of just the audience. It also means owning the results your thoughts are creating. Your outer life is often a reflection of your inner world. Your habits, your energy, your decisions, they're all downstream from your thinking. If your thoughts are scattered, your habits will be inconsistent. If your thoughts are fearful, your actions will be timid. If your thoughts are resentful, your relationships will be tense. So if you want to improve any area of life, the first place to look is your thinking. And taking responsibility means not waiting for a miracle or a mentor or a moment of motivation. It means starting where you are, with what you have, and saying, I'm in charge of the quality of my thoughts today. That doesn't mean you never feel discouraged. It doesn't mean you never struggle. It means when those thoughts show up, you recognize them, and you don't let them drive the car. There's a level of mental maturity that comes when you stop blaming and start building. It's when you realize that your thinking is like a garden. You can't just hope it grows well. You have to pull weeds, plant seeds, water it, protect it, and no one else can do it for you. People can encourage you, yes, they can challenge you, they can support you. But they can't change the way you think without your permission. That part is on you. And the moment you truly accept, that is the moment you begin to unlock consistent growth. Because now you're not reacting to life. You're responding to it with clarity. Taking responsibility for your thinking also means being mindful of what you consume. The mind is shaped by what you feed it. If you're constantly listening to negative voices, scrolling through drama, comparing yourself to others, it's no surprise your thinking feels heavy, anxious, or small. Responsibility means curating your environment. Choosing what you read, choosing who you spend time with, choosing what you say to yourself when no one else is listening, because those little choices are not little. They shape your mental climate. They influence your internal weather. And if your internal weather is cloudy every day, you won't see the opportunities right in front of you. It's also about consistency. You don't fix your thinking once, and then it's done forever. The world is noisy. The mind drifts, old patterns come back, new pressures appear. That's why taking responsibility is a daily process. You check in with your thoughts the same way you check in with your goals. You remind yourself of what you've chosen to believe. You update your mindset the same way you update your skills, because a strong mindset is not an accident, it's a practice. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes to notice unhelpful thoughts and replace them with better ones. Another part of responsibility is being honest with yourself. It's easy to lie to ourselves and justify everything. I'm just tired. I'll do it later. That's just how I am. But honesty cuts through excuses. It says, what's really going on here? Why am I avoiding this? What am I afraid of? That level of self-awareness can be uncomfortable, but it's freeing. Because once you see the truth about your thinking, you can work with it, you can shift it, you can strengthen it, you can become more than your first reaction, more than your old habits, more than your past conditioning. No one can take this responsibility for you. You can read every book, attend every seminar, watch every video, but until you take full ownership of how you think, nothing truly changes. And the people who do take that ownership, they begin to think with purpose. They start building a mindset that supports the future they want, not the past they had. They choose thoughts that create resilience, confidence, focus, clarity. They recognize that thoughts come and go, but their choice to believe or challenge them. That's where the real power lives. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness and direction. Responsibility doesn't mean you never make mistakes. It means you learn from them. It means you track your thoughts like a gardener tracks the soil, the sunlight, the water, and when something is off, you adjust. You don't blame the seed, you check the system. That's what responsible thinking looks like. It's intentional, it's active, it's ongoing. It's the foundation of personal growth, and it's available to anyone who's willing to take the wheel and stop living on mental autopilot. Train your mind daily with discipline, reflection, and learning. The mind is not a finished product. It's a tool that needs sharpening. It doesn't stay strong on its own, and it doesn't grow by accident. Just like your body needs regular exercise to stay healthy and capable, your mind needs consistent training to think clearly, act wisely, and stay aligned with your goals. The problem is most people only use their mind reactively. They wait until they're in trouble, confused, or under pressure before they try to think deeply. But by then, the untrained mind panics, it overreacts, it forgets, it makes decisions based on fear, not clarity. That's why training your mind isn't optional if you want to build a life that's strong, steady, and successful. Daily mental training means you don't just wake up and hope you think well that day. You take the time to shape your thinking before the world has a chance to shape it for you. You create a morning routine that includes silence, study, writing, or goal review. Even 10 to 15 minutes of focused mental conditioning in the morning can change the entire direction of your day. Because when your thinking is focused, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your actions follow. And when your actions line up with your purpose, results begin to shift. Mental discipline is developed the same way physical discipline is, by showing up even when you don't feel like it. You don't wait for motivation to strike. You build systems that keep your mindset in motion. That could be reading something challenging every day, reviewing your goals, writing down what you're learning, or practicing gratitude. These are not glamorous habits, but they build strength beneath the surface. Every time you sit down and do the work of thinking, reflecting, learning, or planning, you're reinforcing the foundation that holds up your mindset, and that foundation is what holds you steady when life throws chaos your way. Reflection is one of the most underrated tools for mental training. In a world obsessed with speed, people rarely slow down to think. They keep doing more, consuming more, chasing more, and never pause to ask, is this working? Am I aligned? What did I learn from that experience? But wisdom isn't found in movement alone, it's found in reflection. When you review your day, your mistakes, your wins, your conversations, you start noticing patterns. You start catching yourself before you repeat the same old habits. You start creating space between stimulus and response. That space is where growth happens. That space is where you get your power back. Learning is another pillar of mental training. You don't grow just by doing. You grow by doing and learning. And the most successful people make learning a non-negotiable part of their life. Not because someone told them to, but because they know the mind gets rusty without new input. If you're not feeding your mind new ideas, new strategies, new perspectives, it starts shrinking. It starts looping the same thoughts over and over. You can be busy and still be mentally stagnant. You can be experienced and still stop learning, and that's dangerous. Because once the mind gets lazy, everything else follows. But when you keep learning, you keep growing. You stay adaptable, you stay humble, you stay in motion, and that momentum keeps you ready for whatever's next. A trained mind doesn't avoid challenges. It becomes stronger through them. It learns to see problems as puzzles, not punishments. It doesn't collapse under pressure, it finds solutions. That's not natural, that's trained. Just like an athlete doesn't naturally enjoy discomfort, but trains to work through it, a mentally disciplined person trains to think clearly under stress. When most people get emotional, the trained mind stays grounded. When most people react, the trained mind pauses. When most people quit, the trained mind asks, what's the lesson here? That level of self-control is not a gift, it's the result of daily mental work. Part of training your mind is also guarding it. You wouldn't train your body hard every day and then poison it with junk food every night. But that's what people do with their mind. They spend a few minutes reading something inspiring, then scroll through negativity for hours. They listen to empowering messages, then spend the rest of the day surrounded by people who complain, blame, or gossip. Training your mind means protecting it from garbage. That includes the voices you allow around you, the media you consume, the thoughts you entertain. Because everything you take in becomes part of your mental environment, and your environment shapes your energy, your focus, and your belief system. Consistency is what separates wishful thinking from mental mastery. Anybody can read a book once or attend a seminar or write in a journal when they're feeling inspired, but the people who build resilient, focused, and powerful minds are the ones who train daily. They show up even when it's boring. They review their goals even when they feel stuck. They practice gratitude even when life feels heavy. They take notes on what they're learning even when nobody is watching. That quiet, consistent work creates inner stability. And that inner stability becomes the launch pad for external results. Another part of daily mental training is visualization. It's not just about imagining your dreams, but mentally rehearsing your responses, your confidence, your focus. Athletes do this all the time. They visualize the shot before they take it. They rehearse how they'll stay calm under pressure. You can do the same thing for your goals, your habits, your conversations. You can practice in your mind before you step into the world, and when you've already succeeded mentally, your body and words follow with more precision. Mental training isn't about fantasy, it's about preparation. It's about stepping into every day with a mind that's ready, not reactive. You also have to train your focus. In a world of distraction, the ability to focus is a superpower, and focus isn't something you're born with, it's something you develop. You can train your focus by practicing single tasking, by spending time in silence, by limiting distractions, by getting clear on what actually matters each day. When you train your focus, your productivity doubles. Your stress drops, your creativity increases. You stop chasing everything and start building something. Journaling is another powerful tool for daily mental training. When you write, you slow your thinking down. You start hearing yourself more clearly. You begin to uncover thoughts that have been sitting in the background, shaping your decisions without your awareness. Writing helps you process, organize, and strengthen your thinking. It gives you a mirror to reflect back your beliefs, your progress, your fears, and your wisdom. It's one of the simplest, most effective ways to train your mind, and yet, most people never do it. Just a few minutes a day can sharpen your awareness and deepen yourself. Understanding there's also emotional training. You don't just think through thoughts, you feel them. A trained mind doesn't deny emotion. It understands it. It watches emotion rise and fall like waves and doesn't panic. It recognizes that fear, anger, sadness, and joy are all part of the mental weather, not the definition of who you are. Emotional mastery is not suppression. It's observation and choice. You train yourself to feel without being ruled, to express without being reckless, to process without drowning. That emotional clarity becomes your advantage, especially when others are falling apart. When you train your mind daily, you begin to live with more presence. You're not stuck in the past or worried about the future. You're awake in the moment. You listen better. You make decisions with more clarity. You notice details others miss. You begin to lead yourself with strength instead of drifting through life hoping for the best. You stop reacting to every trigger and start responding with intelligence and awareness. You build confidence not because everything goes right, but because you trust your ability to handle it. The daily training of your mind is a commitment. It's a practice. It's a standard you set for yourself. Not because someone is watching, but because you've decided you want more clarity, more confidence, more consistency in your life. You stop waiting for peace to find you. You build it from within. You stop hoping for confidence to appear. You generate it through action. You stop asking for clarity from outside sources. You develop it through quiet reflection and focused thought. And that's how your mind becomes your strongest ally in everything you do. Focus on what you can control and think in terms of long-term possibility. One of the biggest traps people fall in 2 is trying to control everything around them. They worry about the economy, about what other people think, about what might happen next month, next year, or 10 years from now. They get stuck trying to manage other people's opinions, decisions, and emotions. They lose sleep over problems that are completely outside their reach, and in doing so, they forget to take charge of the one thing that's always in their hands, their own response. When you shift your energy away from things you can't control and begin to master what you can, life begins to simplify. You stop wasting your time trying to fix the weather, and instead, you build a stronger umbrella. You stop waiting for people to treat you a certain way, and instead, you become someone who can handle any reaction with poise and calm. Focusing on what you can control doesn't mean giving up on goals or accepting mediocrity. It means anchoring yourself in reality and building strength from the inside out. You may not be able to control the timing of success, but you can control the effort you bring. You may not be able to control how fast results show up, but you can control the consistency of your actions. You may not be able to control who believes in you, but you can control the belief you choose to build within yourself every single day. When you live with that focus, you begin to feel less anxious, less frustrated, and more centered, more capable. The world is noisy. There will always be uncertainty. Things will go wrong. People will disappoint you. Markets will change. Plans will fall apart. But when your thinking is built on stability instead of chaos, you start to see those moments not as personal attacks, but as part of the process. And the process is never meant to be smooth all the way through. The process is meant to grow you, and growth rarely happens in comfort. But even inside discomfort, you can choose how you interpret it. You can see it as a threat, or you can see it as preparation. That shift in perception is one of the most powerful things you can ever control. Controlling your mindset means choosing to stay focused on what you're building instead of obsessing over what you're missing. It means keeping your attention on your next step instead of getting overwhelmed by how far you still have to go. It means recognizing that while life isn't always fair, your response to it can still be intelligent. When your thinking is grounded in personal ownership, you stop being at the mercy of circumstances. You stop blaming your environment, your background, your boss, your family, or the market. You start saying, "Here's what I can do today." And that one question shifts your entire day, and eventually your entire direction. Thinking in terms of long-term possibility means you stop chasing quick fixes and start planting seeds. You start building habits that compound. You begin to see that meaningful change doesn't always happen in dramatic moments, but in quiet, consistent effort repeated day after day. It means you take your eyes off the clock and put them on the compass. You stop asking, "How fast can I get there?" and start asking, "What kind of person do I need to become to sustain it when I do?" That change in focus creates patience, and patience creates depth. And with depth comes confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because you know you're growing in the right direction. So many people give up because their thinking is short term. They want instant feedback, instant approval, instant validation. And when it doesn't come fast, they assume something is wrong. But the truth is, all great things take time. You don't build a reputation in a week. You don't master a skill in a few days. You don't change your identity overnight. Long-term thinking is what keeps you grounded when results are slow. It's what helps you stay committed when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when the applause is silent, but the process is working anyway. Possibility thinking means that even in hard moments, you still believe something good can come out of it. It doesn't mean you pretend everything is fine. It means you're strong enough to face what's not fine without giving up your belief in what's possible. It's not naive, it's disciplined hope. It's trained optimism. It's the decision to see potential where others only see problems. And that mindset turns setbacks into setups. It turns rejection into redirection. It turns mistakes into lessons. Not automatically, but through the lens you choose to wear every day. When you think long term, you start living differently. You value character over image. You choose discomfort today for growth tomorrow. You invest your time instead of spending it. You focus on depth, not just appearance. You learn to delay gratification because you know the rewards are not always immediate, but they're always worth it. And that patience becomes your edge. While others quit at the first sign of difficulty, you keep going because you know difficulty is part of the journey. You know storms don't last forever. You know pressure creates strength, control, and long-term vision also affect how you speak to yourself. Instead of saying, "I'll never get it," you start saying, "I haven't figured it out yet." Instead of saying, "I'm bad at this," you say, "I'm learning this." Instead of labeling yourself with final words, you use words that allow growth. You choose language that leaves the door open. That simple shift in self-talk changes your posture, your energy, your decisions, and over time, it changes your reality. When you focus only on the present problem and forget the long-term vision, everything feels heavier. A bad day feels like a failure. A slow week feels like proof you'll never succeed. A missed opportunity feels like the end of the road. But when you zoom out, you see that these are just moments in a bigger story. They don't define the ending, they're just chapters, and you're still writing. Long-term thinkers understand that the present is important, but the future is shaped by how they think about the present. Every day is either a step forward or a missed chance, and they treat it with intention. You can't control how long it takes, but you can control whether or not you keep showing up. You can't control what others say about your journey, but you can control how you talk about yourself. You can't control the timing of your breakthrough, but you can control your preparation for it. That's what responsibility looks like in action. That's what power looks like without noise. It's quiet, steady, invisible on the surface, but strong at the core. People who focus on what they can control are the ones who build stability in a chaotic world. They are the ones who stay calm under pressure because they've already rehearsed how to respond. They are the ones who make progress even during setbacks because their vision is bigger than their mood. They don't chase approval, they chase progress. They don't react impulsively, they respond with thought. They don't need life to be perfect, they just need their mindset to stay clear. That's the mindset that builds empires slowly, silently, consistently. Focusing on what you can control doesn't shrink your ambition, it strengthens it. It keeps your ambition rooted in action instead of fantasy. It turns dreams into plans and plans into steps. It doesn't rush success, but it multiplies the chances of success. And thinking long term doesn't make you soft, it makes you strategic. It makes you more durable, more focused, and more respected. You stop chasing shortcuts and start creating something real, something that lasts, something that grows stronger the longer it's built on purpose. That's the kind of life that's worth working for every single day.